and I'm here on behalf of the United States Department of Agriculture. You are seeing this because you have just entered federal property. Welcome to the United States. What I am here to speak with you about today is health of pets and plant safety. A general rule I like to start this talk off with is not all animals are pets. And what that basically means is just because you feel something like some sort of companionship and crittership in your heart does not really mean that that is a law-abiding pet. That pet may not be able to cross state lines even, let alone international territories. So we just want to keep this in mind. Your pet needs its own paperwork, and in order for it to have its own paperwork, it needs to be a valid species. And you can find a valid species on our website. If we can agree on that, there's plenty more we all can agree on. We can all agree that it is nice being around an animal that is subservient to your will. This is part of being human. This is part of our chain of commands. But in order for these hierarchies or chains of commands to exist, they need a solid context or ecosystem, which is why we like to stress that in order for a hierarchy to be valid, it needs to have an ecosystem, which is why animals need to remain within the home. The home, the yard, maybe even the front yard. All of these things will keep your animal aware of the chain of commands. In the house, the only thing underneath your pet would be common pests, like mouses or palmetto bugs and cockroaches. The chain of food in the house is simple. It goes from pantry to mouth to restroom or to the trash can. But this tight-knit ecosystem of the nuclear family can be disrupted by even the littlest of things. For instance, please do not tell your pet that steak comes from an animal larger than them. This is going to disrupt your animal's mental faculties to the point where it will be confused about that chain of commands we were talking about earlier. What even is scale if it is not power? This animal is going to become extremely unwell mentally. And it's almost like his apple. If he's Eve, knowing about the cow is his apple. So there's going to tell him what organism he's going to conquer next, which is the scary thing, y'all. So that is just something to keep in mind. I think it was Darwin who first said survival of the fittest. But how do evolutionary biologists think that they can maintain such a barefaced lie? We all know this isn't true. And for example, I'm just going to debunk it right now. Darwin and everybody in his crew, I've got one question for you. What about the animals who not only survive, but thrive within their environment? That's right, I'm talking about invasives. I'm talking about invasives. some of the earth, y'all, invasives are taking over our natural wild ecosystem, which we love. Darwin, what about European starling? That animal seems to survive just fine after it was released into Central Park in New York City in 1975 by an avid Shakespeare fan who thought the city could benefit from such a poetic bird. Wrong. This bird still ravages and ransacks the natural ecosystem of the Southeast. What about the cute rodent-faced nutria, which seems to thrive in the wetlands of Georgia? It was first introduced to English-speaking colonies because of the fur trade. It was trendy to have a nutria-skinned purse at the time. Now that that's out of fashion, we've got to deal with them. How could I forget the Bernese python, which ravages my home state, Florida, after it was released by a reluctant pet owner into the National State Park of the Everglades. The birds of the Everglades had no idea that they needed to fear a predator that didn't even exist to them. That was until it was too late. Legend has it that when Christopher Columbus and his three ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, all docked on what is now known as the eastern coast of the United States, the Native Americans didn't know what they were seeing on the horizon. This is because they didn't have a word in their language to describe what they were seeing. These mystical ships were beyond their level of comprehension. And all they knew what to do was sit and squint and try to figure out what they were looking at. Only did it become clear when the shipgoers got off the ship and introduced themselves. Mutual recognition we still celebrate today with Thanksgiving, which is celebrated before Christmas. People who see UFOs talk about a similar thing, not being able to behold something that's right in front of them because they've never seen something like that before. So this is where I kind of get into how this relates to you as a person, living your life. I want to kind of zoom out for a second. I was getting ready for bed the other night, and as I was falling asleep, my dreams, they transported me to, I was in my Honda Civic, behind the Target, on my way back to the neighborhoods. But it was standstill traffic. The traffic was so bad that it was taking forever to get there. But the weird thing was, there was nothing in front of my line of vision. I couldn't see nothing. I just knew I couldn't go past. And that's when I saw, on this side of the road, there was a squirrel who was trying to get to the other side of the road. This is kind of an artist's sketch of the road. So this squirrel, just to get to the road, to the other side of the road, he hops into a bunny rabbit. So he becomes a bunny rabbit, and then he says, I'm not done. Then he becomes his own car. Halfway across the road, then becomes a porcupine, or a hedgehog rather. Almost there, then he transforms into a cat. And by the time he's at the other side of the road, he is a full-blown snow leopard, y'all, scaring the living daylights out of me. And I just kind of bring this kind of thing up because I woke up totally disturbed by my dream. I had no idea where these kind of animals, these images came from. Till I got to thinking, I took my niece to a modern art museum downtown that weekend. And I had seen a piece of art that was on a TV. It was like in a TV, and it was this exact same thing, this exact same animals turning into these different animals. And so that's where it came from. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. If you're scared of something, just know it's probably because you don't understand it yet. We are social creatures. We need to feel like we can relate to something in order to understand it. That's the whole point, isn't it? So just keep that in mind while you travel this great nation. And I really appreciate you listening to this talk, and have a great temporary visit to the United States. We are so happy to have you for just a little while. Thank you so much.